Okay, so today we're going to be talking about all the Crust City baits. Over the last couple of months, I've been slowly picking up these baits, and I've been really impressed with almost all of them, and I feel like there's been a lot of thought and a lot of time put into these baits, and just wanted to share my opinions on each one. I'm going to start with probably the most hyped up one, the Crust City Mooch Minnow. I've gotten like 4 or 5 packs of these, and they are the like jig head minnow, the minnow shaken style one. And this is it right here. You can see its tail is it has this like helicopter bit, and they are Elastec, so they're super stretchy, but this tail back here just flutters and spins all crazy, and that action seems to be almost as more than just the juggling action that you put in with the rod. This one is in the shad color, which is my personal favorite color. I also have some green pumpkin ones, and I've tried the gizzard shad and the green shad, but the shad is my favorite. Favorite way to rig the Mooch Minnow is just on a 3/16 ounce NHB tackle jig head, or I really like the hover rig. I haven't had as much luck on it, but it puts a really nice action. And if you want to get the NHB tackle jig heads or hover rig hooks, I'll have a link in the description with a 10% off code. Overall, the Mooch Minnow has been one of my favorite baits from the Crust City lineup, and it lives up to the hype. I would definitely recommend picking up some of these for either out deep juggle minnow, or over like grass flats or anything like that. Like up shallow, I've had a lot of luck this spring on them. And then next up in the lineup is the Crust City BLT. And this is their Ned rig bait. And this one I've been using for not too long, but has quickly become one of my favorite Ned rigs. And the action on the tail, really whenever you hop it, that action is really good. They're really easy to rig. The Z-Man ones are great and they last a really long time, but sometimes they can be trickier to rig. I've just noticed that this one is easier to rig, but still is Elastec-y. And yeah, it's a great Ned rig bait, but it has that extra bit of action, but it's a Ned rig, so there's not all that much that you can do. But this is definitely a great Ned rig, and I would use it more than the Z-Man one, so I like it, but if you have other Ned rigs, it's not really a necessary pickup. Let's go to the cleanup crawl. I've had 2 packs of these I've gone through, and they are really good for smaller flipping and on the back of swim jigs. Is my favorite way to rig these is just on the back of a swim jig. They have these really big claws, like really big flapping crawls, and this about these is these little ribs. They're super easy to poke the hook point in, and they keep your bait from getting snagged almost at all, Texas rigged, and I really like that. And overall, a good small crawl bait. Okay, so let's move on to the Crust City Mayor swim bait. I've probably gone through 6 or 7 packs of these over the winter, and it's been one of my favorite swim bait over the winter. I really like fishing these just on a plain jig head, and there's only so much you can do with a swim bait, and these are not your Kitech style wide swimming ones. but they have their tail action, and then it has this side-to-side rock in unison with the tail, and I found that that is just super special. This is the 3-inch size. I've caught a bunch of fish, not too many big ones. The biggest was a 4-pounder, and on a underspin or on a swim jig, or mostly just honestly mostly just on that NHB tackle jig head. I've caught so many fish over the winter on these. I also have some of the 4-inch, and the 4-inch have that same action. They're a whole lot bigger. The 4-inch have that same action. They're a whole lot bigger of a bait. And I haven't caught as many fish on the 4-inch, but I'm excited to fish them more in the future. And overall, the Mayor is not your Kitech style swim bait, but I really like that side-to-side wobble with the tail action. It's really good, so I definitely recommend some of them. And then next up is the Crust City Janitor. The Janitor is a 6-inch, just finesse worm style bait. It's specifically designed for a Nico rig, but I also find it really good, extremely good on a shaky head. And this bait is just a 6-inch style with a little slight bulbous tail. And a couple things about this bait. It has a little slot for VMC crossover rings, which is great. And I've just found that because you can that slot is there, and that's the perfect hook placement. And I found this tail has this little scoop, these little scoops on either side, and I found that it's a really flowy for just a worm. Like when you're hopping along, the tail tends to keep up, and it's just really good. And it also has a bulbous, more thick part for your weight for Nico rigs. And also on that shaky head, when you're just shaking it along, I found that this bait is a great just finesse worm. I haven't tried it on a Texas rig, but I think it's a lot better on the shaky head and the Nico rig. Overall, if you're looking for a Nico rig bait that's available at your big box stores, I definitely recommend this one. Okay. Let's move on to the pig stick. These I've found have a very similar action to the Yamamoto's, and overall I really like these because they just have a slightly different action, and they have that spot for the crossover rings, and they're a really heavy stick bait, and I really like wacky rig fishing, and this bait looks phenomenal on the wacky rig. Just as good as the Yamamoto, but it has a slightly different fall that I think might set it apart in those really pressured fisheries. And I haven't gotten too much work done with this bait, but I haven't fished it much because it's not quite yet wacky time. But once it comes around, I'll do a follow-up video on this comparing it to the Yamamoto because I'm really excited about this bait. Okay, the Crust City Freeloader. The Freeloader is a bait that I have. This was the first Crust City bait I tried, and at first I was not impressed with it on the back of a chatterbait. It had a great chat action, but it just did not wander, it didn't hunt around nearly as much as the spunk shad. And so at first I was not as impressed, but this bait is really good juggling over grass flats and through grass flats on the back of a spinnerbait. I've just found that this seems to work on a lot of different baits, and you can put it on a chatterbait. It just doesn't have the same hunting action as the spunk shad. But I love it on a jig head or on a hover rig. I get mine from NHB Tackle, but anyone works well. And This overall is a pretty good bait. I would definitely recommend it if you want a slightly bigger than the mooch minnow style for your juggle minnows or your minnow. And I would definitely recommend those if that's what you're looking for. They also go great on the back of a spinnerbait. Last but not least, the Crust City Bronco Bug. The Bronco Bug. It's a knockoff of a JDM bait, but the JDM baits were $12 a pack, and you had to get them from Japan. And so I don't see a problem with it too much, because I do think they should have given credit, but the Bronco Bug is a really weird style bait. It has these big, heavy, thick crawls, and then it's connected by a thin seam, and then it has that same ribbing for your hook. And these, I've definitely found that they look good on a weightless Texas rig, and for just like flipping, pitching, like just casting around reeds or anything like that. I've found that these work well, but they're definitely a very unique style bait. If you were looking for something different for like that flipping or weightless Texas rig, I would definitely recommend the Bronco Bug. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe. See you on the next one.